All right, this is Biology 21.4, and you can see I'm not at my house today, I'm at school today. Um, we'll see if we get to do that. Like, we're waiting for the governor to speak or something. I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, 21.4, segmented worms and earthworms. Isn't that exciting stuff? All right, so segmented worms are earthworms, basically. Flatworms, roundworms, that kind of thing. You know what the difference is between flatworms and roundworms? Flatworms are flatter, roundworms are rounder. There's a little bit more to it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, earthworms, they're a typical what they call annelids. Annelids are segmented worms, and they are usually nocturnal animals. Usually they're going to be down in the soil or dirt, that kind of thing. They have 4 pairs of CT. That's funny. They have 4 pairs of CT, which are those bristles on each body segment. And they can kind of extend and retract those CT so that they can kind of move around because they don't have legs, obviously. An earthworm moves, its like front segments, and then it'll kind of pull its back segments, towards it there. They breathe through their skin, cutaneous breathing there. It has to stay moist because they get that the oxygen through that moisture, basically. And so it would suffocate and die if it didn't have that moisture there. It does have a little nervous system, nerves, brain, a little tiny little brain, and it's about the size of a pinhead. So, can you see that? Little tiny brain. And how they know that amazes me. Then they have a circulatory system. It does have blood in it and not water, of course. You can read about their digestive system. It has a shovel-like upper lip, what they call prostomium, and it scoops soil into their mouth, and then as it goes through the soil, like this is soil, as it goes through the soil, it opens its mouth, and the soil passes through. So this soil comes in, and it pushes it all, keeps pushing it to the back end, basically. Let me turn my phone on silent. And so it pushes it to the back end, basically. And so then, and it comes out. Those things that come out, the enriched soil, basically, the soil that's passed through its digestive system, those called castings, casting. And it's enriching the soil. It loosens the soil. So earthworms are actually not bad for the soil. They're good for your flower gardens and different gardens or whatever they're mostly. And the liquid wastes are eliminated through what they call nephridia. And these are just coiled excretory tubes at both ends. They're open at both ends there. And they function like little kidneys. And then it opens at both ends. The liquid waste drain from the body cavity as it goes through the soil as well. So those are earthworms. And then you have different sea worms. Sea worms, these are the largest class of segmented worms. You can see some sea worms down on the bottom of page 440. And most of them hide from predators in little tubes that the worms construct when they feed, and then the sea worms may come only partially out of their tubes, or they might come completely out of their tubes. Depends on what they want to do there. And they have a pair of fleshy lobes called parapodia, and that's on each little body segment, and it exchanges the oxygen and the carbon dioxide out of the water as well. And then you have leeches. Leeches, they don't have little CT like earthworms do. They don't have parapodia like the sea worms do. They have a flattened kind of body with a suction disc or a sucker on the end of their body, and they cling to their hosts. And so some leeches are free-living organisms, but most of them, of course, are parasites. And you can see the leech there, nasty-looking thing on page 441. Most of them a lot of them, the parasitic leeches, will feed on the blood of their hosts. Snails, fish, reptiles, mammals, and yes, humans. And most of them are aquatic, though. They'll attach to the host with their little sucker there, And sharp teeth in the anterior sucker puncture the host skin so that it can just suck and feed on the blood. It has an anticoagulant. Remember, it's what doesn't allow the blood to clot. They have an anticoagulant in their saliva, and that helps them to just continually suck the blood there. And that is leeches. All right, so that's basically all annelids, earthworms. That would be earthworms, sea worms, leeches. And then that's 21.4. And we will talk about flatworms and roundworms in the next segment.